everybody, it's Joe Cioffi on this Tuesday as we take a look at the autumn weather that we have here in my neck. All day long, which is a pretty interesting and amazing feat for this time of year, but it does happen. And when we Hi everybody, it's Joe Cioffi on this Tuesday as we take a look at the autumn weather that we have here in my neck of the woods. At least we've got this low pressure area in the northeast with a bit of an onshore flow continuing, a lot of clouds, so it sets up for temperatures that are in the 60s just about everywhere. And there were places yesterday north of central New Jersey, north and east, that didn't get out of the 60s all day long, which is a pretty interesting and amazing feat for this time of year, but it does happen. And when we take a look at the profile of temperatures, these are some mid-morning temperatures here. We've got some lower and middle 70s to our south and west. There's actually some sunshine in parts of southeastern Pennsylvania, south and west of there, but there's a lot of clouds everywhere else. And if you look at these numbers for this time of the day, it's in the low 60s, low to mid 60s across Long Island. We've got the temperatures up in the upper 50s in parts of interior Connecticut and back through Massachusetts. Look at these numbers, even some middle 50s showing up in a few places. So very untypical of this time of year. Elsewhere, by the way, we've got some thunderstorms up in the northern plains moving into Minnesota, where we have a risk of severe weather there today. And there's some of the usual action that goes on in the Rockies, some of the diurnal stuff that develops and then gradually disappears. And here's the West Coast satellite view. You can see this slope of moisture moving northeastward, but the West Coast is dry and quiet, not much happening, the usual array of morning low clouds, and then we're just about done. Pretty quiet too on the radar this morning as we take a look at the national scene, and you can see what's going on. Not too much, just some showers in upstate New York and on up into northern Maine and parts of New England. Some showers and storms off the southeast coast, some showers and storms scattered across the Gulf states. Here's the action back out in the west in Utah and Nevada, southwestern parts of Utah. It looks like a pretty good cluster of rain and downpours there, and some scattered showers elsewhere. And of course the west coast all the way up to the Pacific Northwest, not showing much of anything. So let's look ahead to what we can expect. And first off, in the east, this system here, a little low off the Delaware coast, is moving out to the northeast. You can see the onshore flow around the high. That's a pretty strong high for this time of year, and so you're getting that northeast flow that's going to continue all day today. But gradually what's going to happen is there's drier air up in New England that is going to work its way southward, and eventually the clouds will get out of the way. If not later this afternoon, certainly tonight. Back out in the west, you go out into the plains and toward the Rockies, of course, with the big ridge in the west. You've got warming going on, another hot day out west with that unrelenting heat that they seem to be having. Now, the next front is going to be approaching on Thursday night. You can see it right through here. I'm going to change colors here and go to blue for a cold front. So, we've got this cold front, and there's a wave on that front, actually right in there. You got a couple of little waves that are developing, and another high is coming down, and that's going to be pushing to the east. What the models are doing, they're swinging around a fairly impressive upper air disturbance so that we get low pressure developing in northern Virginia. This is possibly going to set up another onshore flow situation. This is the second one in the last 2 weeks, so patterns tend to rhyme and repeat themselves, so we may go at it again here. with some rain and thunderstorms. You know, I was kind of worried yesterday that this front would stall out. The models were attempting to bring that front way down south, but that is not the case. In reality, it's right up in here. And somebody's going to get lined up for some heavy rains out of this if the energy in the upper atmosphere holds together. And then that low pulls out Friday night so that the weekend looks nice, and it looks kind of cool right through Sunday. Certainly below average temperatures, probably in the upper 70s to low 80s. This is the warmest time of the year in terms of average temperatures going into the first week of August before the averages begin to decline. After that, that high pulls out. You've got another front with another shortwave trough in the upper atmosphere for the middle of next week. You can pick it out right here, another little bubble high that's coming down. So maybe it gets warm and very warm and humid for a day or two ahead of it, and then the front goes by, although it looks weak on this going forward. So we might make a transition over to warmer and more humid air going into the first few days of August. We'll take a look. Before I go into the upper air, I'm going to switch off to the west, because that's been fairly easy and straightforward, and it probably will continue to be. So let's roll back and look at the western part of the U.S. And if it would just load everything up, there you go. So you get these diurnal showers and thunderstorms. Get some pretty good action for thunderstorms on Thursday in parts of Colorado and New Mexico. But the west is pretty much the same story here going forward because of that big ridge that's out west that varies in strength from time to time. So that's going to impact temperatures one way or the other depending on where you are. But overall, it just continues to be hot with diurnal showers and thunderstorms right through the forecast period of the next 2 weeks. So we'll punch up the upper air here. And let me just bring you what's going on. You know, it's been the same story, like a broken record, really. And we'll start with, let's back it up. So here we are. Here's today. So here's our trough that's swinging through now and getting out of the way. So that pulls out. Now here's the next one right in here. You can see it there. That's a pretty decent little shortwave trough that's swinging around, and that's what's going to bring in some rain and thunderstorms Friday. And you can see the trough actually deepens a bit and stretches southwestward down into the southeastern part of the United States, while the ridge stays pretty strong out in the west. So this is a fairly chilly flow, relatively speaking, using the word chilly. And here's our western ridge. It's kind of flattened out a little bit to the south. So you got a bit of a jet that's coming in along the Canadian border. That is for Saturday. Then that trough doesn't really lift out until a wave trough that comes down. Now, once that lifts up, you know, we saw this yesterday. The Atlantic ridge is going to try and build back westward. Now, how much success it has, you still have that ridge in the west, but the Atlantic ridge is going to try and build back, and the jet's going to try and pull back a little further to the north. We've seen models do this before, only to find another disturbance in the flow come down and make another trough in the east. And there's still some semblance of troughing here going into the end of the first 10 days of August. You can see it here. Now by then, the ridge kind of moves more toward the middle of the U.S., maybe favoring a little bit more of the east. You still have troughing right along the east coast. We'll have to see how real this is. It's bringing a trough into the west at the end of the period. I don't know how real that is. And you've got the Atlantic ridge still in place, which, again, if we get any kind of tropical waves, such as they've been in the Atlantic, they're going to have a fairly strong westerly component. Just a quick check of the tropics. We still have our tropical systems in the Pacific here. I'll give you the shot where you can see all three. You know what? Let me just double check on one thing. With regards to the Pacific. So we have actually two hurricanes now. We have Hurricane Hilary and Hurricane Irwin and Tropical Storm Greg. Greg's winds are 45 miles an hour. Hilary is strengthening to a major hurricane. Top winds are 105, and Irwin is at 75 miles an hour. So that just got to hurricane status. But Greg is going to continue to weaken as it moves westward. It's like a train, one after another after another. And here it is on the water vapor imagery. A lot of dry air in the Pacific right now, all covering a good chunk of the northeast, well, let's call it the eastern Pacific, and then on up into the northeastern Pacific. But there you've got your three tropical systems. You still got that strong shear that's going on back to east of Hawaii. So Greg will be history before too long, and so will the other two, since they're not impacting any land. And here's the Atlantic view this morning, really not showing very much at all. And when we look at the water vapor imagery, look at this big, huge upper low, just still there. It's been sitting and going back and forth in the Atlantic. It goes east, and now it's going west. But, you know, the bottom line, and again, this is way up in the atmosphere, it's creating very hostile conditions aloft with strong westerly winds. So anything that rides along in the tropical waves will get sheared apart. Also, notice big chunk of dry air that has come off the African coast. So we've got more Saharan dust at play, and that air, very dry, is moving westward. So we still do not have, in my view, conditions that are supportive for tropical storm development anytime soon. So we'll leave it there, folks, for today. I hope you have a great Tuesday, and we'll chat a little bit now. And if you've got any additional questions, we'll tackle them. And so we'll get going with that, and enjoy the rest of, if you're leaving me at this point, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Okay, I think you should be able to hear me. If someone would indicate that, that would be terrific. If anybody can just let me know that you can hear my voice. Okay, I think you should. There you go. Okay, great. So, you know, one of the things that, you know, we've been talking about the fact that, you know, the trend being your friend, and really, I don't see too much happening in terms of the overall flavor of the pattern with this trough in the east and the ridge in the west. I think it's going to be a matter of, you know, the strength of these troughs coming down or the lack of strength. And that when they're not that strong, they will push heat up a little bit further to the northeast. But in the meantime, you know, we've got this one for the end of the week that looks pretty powerful. And that is going to at least keep things very cool here going forward through this coming weekend. The only day this week that really it'll probably warm up back into the 80s, I think, will be Thursday, where we should have a sunshine with some arriving clouds until the front approaches Thursday night. RMF Gaming, why don't troughs have the same effect in the summer like they have in the winter? Well, I mean, the troughs are not as deep, the jet stream not as far south, and, you know, you're working on very, very warm air. You know, think of in the wintertime, the southern parts of those troughs are down in the southern part of the United States where it tends to be warmer. You know, it has less of an impact than what it has further north. You know, as we go into the fall and get deeper into the fall, these troughs get stronger and stronger, and they will have a larger impact over the overall atmosphere across the country. The ones this time of year tend to be shorter in wavelength. Not that they aren't short in wavelength sometimes in the wintertime, but there's just so much more going on that impacts the weather in the wintertime than it does in the summer. Actually, to say more going on, there's different things going on. I think that's probably a better way to describe it. Alvaro Bonilla you're fantasizing here a lot today about, you know, super hot conditions, and now you're talking about super cold conditions. What my reaction if the winter weather in the Northeast would be as cold as Alaska, and the summer weather as hot as Arizona, and spring weather starting out in 30 degrees but then in 90. Well, you know what? Over the span of each season, you do have extremes that last for very, very short periods of time. So, you know, I'm not thinking, you know, this is not something that you would sort of expect to suddenly become the climate of these particular areas. Christopher, on the Weather Channel, they're predicting Friday in Mansfield another 1 to 2 inches of rain. I think it's possible, depending on the track of this wave that's going to be developing to our south, and also going to have an onshore flow. So it's probably going to mean another day of temperatures just in the 60s, and even some cooler 50s. I don't know about you, but I'm really liking this today. I got my sweatshirt on. Of course, the sad thing is that I finally got all the algae out of my pool. I was able to swim in it for a whole day, but now the rain filled it up and it's cold, and the water temperature's probably dropped about 5 or 6 degrees from all of this action. So I'm going to need another heat wave in order to bring the pool water back up. Is there anything from Connor Allen? Anything we can look at now that will indicate about the upcoming winter? Honestly, Connor, no. The pattern we have now is not necessarily the pattern that we're going to have in the wintertime. So, that's a long ways away to try to get a pattern to hold up for 6, 7, or 8 months in a row. It just doesn't happen. You're going to get fluctuations every 6 weeks or so. We've been in this trough in the East Ridge and the West idea for a while now, ongoing for the last 2+ months. That's a little long in the tooth. So if it winds up changing, although sometimes the summertime patterns tend to last a little bit longer, again, because there's not as much happening overall in the atmosphere to sort of, not have as many catalysts for change as you do as you get deeper into the fall and during the winter and early springtime. Raymond, a good example is when they hyped the European model for the blizzard back in 15 and the GFS had a better handle on it. Let's see. The Weather Channel, in my opinion, is not a good source. Okay, I'm just trying to follow up on your prior comment. Yeah, I hesitate to give my opinions on it. They have a mission that they have decided to take with regards to their programming, and they are consistent with that. It is not something that I particularly enjoy. I think some people do. The hype issue is big, and it seems to be getting bigger over time because there are so few people out there trying to be reasonable when it comes to weather coverage. And unfortunately, those people do get lost in the sauce. And by the way, maybe to spread out, let's call it the blame a little bit, I've always said that the general public has to learn to consume weather information in a different way. There are no absolutes here. There's always going to be a bust somewhere every day, someplace. And people seem to have this idea that certitude is an entitlement when it comes to a weather forecast, and it just isn't, and it never will be. People need to view weather with the sense of fluidness, that it's forecasting change, and the change is constantly changing, and you have to adjust your decisions accordingly. It's just the way it is. Weather Channel also said for heavy thunderstorms and a flood threat. Is that true or overdoing it? I mean, I think there's a shot for heavy rains here on heavy rains in the Northeast on Friday, depending on how far north that wave gets. That's going to be to our south. So I don't watch the Weather Channel, so I can't really directly comment on what they're specifically doing, because I haven't watched them in years. What they do is what they do. I think you got to find the weather person that really gives you the information in a good way, so that you can consume it and digest it, and minus the hype. Which is, like I said, it's problematic for me, because I try to be very straightforward and very objective in my views of things. That's why I've seldom had opportunities when it's very rare that I get worried about stuff. So when I worry, I think then it's a good sign that you should worry. But until then, there's no need to. Hello to Bryce T. Uh, does the jet stream determine Alvaro determine the season and the temperature, or does the Earth stage of orbit to the sun? Well, I mean, the tilt of the Earth with the season, all of that has some impact. I think I kind of understand what your question is. The jet stream, the position of the jet stream being further south or further north of average will impact how warm or how cold it is. Michael Groom, winter weather forecast. I am not doing one, and I will not do one this year. I have tried to do them in prior years. I don't do them well. Um, I've never really seen the practicality of it, other than maybe the fun part of it. But for you weather lovers, but I'm just not gonna. I'll make some general comments about the long range, but I am not going to make a winter forecast, mainly because it's really a futile exercise. There's just too many things going on, too many things that can change. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am I can't get my head around the long range and all the meteorology and climatology that's involved. It's just too much for me. Why is there more humidity in the summer than in the winter? Well, the air is warmer, so it can hold more moisture. It's pretty straightforward. Warmer air can hold more water content. Um, Thank you, Raymond. I appreciate that. And by the way, when it comes to when we get into start dealing with tropical storms or hurricanes, uh, I'm just going to let everybody know right off the bat. With respect to your own local area, I can't answer questions regarding specifics for areas I don't know, and you need to really rely on the National Weather Service and your local government officials when it comes to that. And you should really rely on them too when it comes to severe weather as well. I mean, I know my own personal area, but even here, it's problematic for me. I don't know every spot, and I don't know the impact that weather has on every single area. I can give a broad brush, but if you want specifics, you have to you should be relying on your local government officials, National Weather Service, and so on for information like that. Abedin, good morning. Good to see you here. All right, folks, you know what? I'm going to call it a day because I got to switch over now and do a live stream on Facebook. I'm glad everybody was here. If you're new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button and subscribe. We do these, getting these live streams done every day, and I'm really enjoying doing them. And when the weather picks up, which it eventually will, and we'll have something out there to sink our teeth into, this will be quite useful and a lot of fun. All right, folks, have a great rest of your Tuesday.